It was a couple years ago, I think maybe 2017, that I saw the movie Close Up in theaters. And I remember at the end, it has such a beautiful ending that I won't spoil here. But I wanted to cry so bad, but I was hanging with a friend, and that we were in this theater, and I was bouncing my leg, and a guy next to me got angry. He's like, "Stop doing that!" Sometimes my leg bounces. Um, and I just remember really badly wanting to cry, but feeling pretty self-conscious in that environment. And it was only years later when I revisited Close Up. For the last 10 minutes of the movie, I just bawled my eyes out, and it hit even harder that time. And I think I'm somebody who always prefers watching an emotional movie at home. I'll admit that, like, sometimes a blockbuster or a comedy can be fun in a big crowd or with a lot of friends. But if I'm watching a movie that I just want to feel and really let myself go to the film, I kind of just want to watch it alone or with one person I care about or something. Um, but that was my first foray, my first venture into the world of Iranian meta cinema. And what this is it's sort of this subgenre of film that popped up in Iranian filmmakers. And the two that I'm knowledgeable about are Abbas Kiarostami and Jafar Panahi. I'm sure there's a bunch of other ones that I don't really approach filmmaking from a historian's viewpoint. I'm a little sloppy when it comes to the specifics and stuff like that, and the movements and the world politics at the time and stuff like that. I more approach it from a very direct human emotional standpoint. So I apologize if my information is only subpar in that regard. But it's the subgenre of film that emerged in Iran where the filmmaking was very present in the film. It's very meta, and that's where the term meta comes from. Is you're not trying to get lost or be convinced of this world. You're seeing the camera. You're seeing the audio gets weird sometimes. The audio glitches. It's very documentary. Sometimes it's hybrid. Sometimes you don't know if something's real or stage. Your attention is constantly being pulled and drawn away from the story you're being told, and you're being made aware of the artist, and you're being made aware of the creation of the art and the terms on which the art is being made. And in my rehearsal video, I talked a little about Kiarostami's Coker trilogy, which is a really beautiful trilogy of films that references the previous one each time. It's a story about the making of the previous one, with the real world kind of coming in and affecting that story. And Close Up is probably my favorite and the best example I've seen of this format of film, because it's this beautiful story about this guy who pretended to be this famous filmmaker in order to get into a wealthier family's home, and he was saying he wanted to shoot a movie there, and he was just lying his way through this like scam, and he didn't really have anything to gain. But then the family tried to press charges against him, and Kiarostami caught wind. This is a real trial, and he caught wind, and he filmed the trial, which you see in the movie. And then he filmed reenactments of this whole story using the real people, the family and the guy who fibbed his way into the situation. And it just turns into this really decisive, beautiful look at forgiveness and wanting to be someone else, feeling trapped in your life. What movies offer us, like by turning the attention on the movie, the filmmaking is a very square focus of the themes of the movie, and how film can make us escape and make us feel different than ourselves for a second, which sometimes is all we really want. And it's just such a beautiful movie. And I've watched that one. I've watched Taste of Cherry, which is a really devastating movie. Homework is an awesome documentary with some meta fiction elements of where he just interviewed kids about like what they think of homework and if school's too hard, and like some of the kids just make you cry in that. I watched And then there's Jafar Panahi, who came after Kiarostami and very much made films from the school of Kiarostami. His movie The Mirror is amazing, and it has such a clever spin on a movie and child actors and this and that, and you just have to see it. And then Jafar Panahi is interesting because he's this director who, as the story goes, he got banned by the Iranian government from filmmaking, and he was put under house arrest. And this is an ongoing trial and tribulation that he goes through throughout his whole life, where he's technically not allowed to make movies because they didn't like what he made, and he made this movie called This Is Not a Film, or I think that's what it's called, and it's like this very rough, scrappy documentary of him just using a phone and his camera in his apartment during this time of house arrest. And then I think he snuck it out of the country to get it into a festival. And it's a really interesting meta look. And that film spoils The Mirror, so I recommend watching The Mirror first. I watched that one first. I'm like, oh man, that seems like a big spoiler, and it was. But and he also made, Taxi, I think it's called, which is a movie, another movie he made under the guise of not making a movie, where he's driving around Iran in his car, Ubering or taxiing people, and they have these conversations, but they're very clearly scripted. But I think the production means it gave him enough plausible deniability to be like, I was just using my dash cam, because it's all shot on his dash cam. So it's really interesting. And in one scene, this girl reads off a list that he has, I think, that of the code of ethics for filmmaking in Iran, like the code that they make people respect. And the list is just insane. You know, they say like no repugnant naturalism, like they don't want things to be real and indicative. They want them to be very, falsified, or whatever you want to call it. And just this list of all these demands and rules you have to follow to make a movie by the Iranian government's standards. Iranian, I'm sorry. And I think that's what's so beautiful about these films, is that they are very much a middle finger to a very controlling government. And you see these filmmakers who are under such strict conditions saying fuck the rules and making what they want and trying these bold new things. And it's just so beautiful to watch, because it's like us in like the Western world, like United States, Canada, Europe, we don't have such strict control over our arts, and yet we still are victims and slaves to very concrete sets of rules. Like, you have to make a movie this way, you need a crew, it needs to be expensive, it needs to play at a festival. I've been over all of this, of course, but there's this very strict set of rules that we still adhere to, but the problem is there's not a tyrannical government to enforce them. The only person we have to say fuck you to is ourselves, because it's all a mental block. It's all a lie, where we can make movies however the hell we want. And I think YouTube, if I've ever seen a film movement that feels so YouTube, it's this Iranian meta cinema. It's this like, anything can be a great story. The structure doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's polished. It doesn't matter if you can see the cameras. You could tell that the audio is ruffling and making sounds. It really mirrors a lot of what you're seeing with like the accessibility of filmmaking nowadays, and that people can make anything and just use what they have and tell stories in the real world with real people. And I think if you really want like a cool textbook on how to break the rules, just watch some of these movies, because they're just like, by and large, there's a lot of still classic cinema form in these movies. Like, there's a lot of great scenes and compositions and beautiful long shots, wide, some of the best like still shots that just let things play out ever. And it's just like you could follow the rules that help tell your story, but you don't need to follow the rules that hinder your ability to tell stories and hinder your ability to do what you want. And you're not going to get arrested and put under house arrest if you do. So that's another big benefit. It's a world I want to explore more, because my small foray with these two filmmakers was so rewarding and beautiful. And I'd like to explore more myself. And I just think a good starting one, Close Up, Kiarostami, The Mirror by Panahi. I think those two are two great starting ones that would really give you a feel for what you're in for. So what else was I gonna say? I've watched a few more Kiarostami. Oh, I watched 24 Frames, which was his last movie. I watched Like Somebody in Love, which was a movie he made in a foreign country, and it's very bilingual. There's a lot of languages used in the movie, but he's just a really interesting filmmaker to explore, and so is Panahi. So I recommend them both. I hope this video was interesting. I hope you guys are having a nice day. I love you guys. I love movies. Bye bye.